Hey there viewers, and welcome back to Grumpy Monkey Garage, where today we are talking once again about Dodge trucks.
Do I dodge or do I ram? Do I dodge or do I ram? Have you ever been in a group project where nobody else did their job? That's how our engine designer feels. Do I dodge or do I ram? 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 Have you ever had the potential to be the best at towing only to be let down by the rest of the truck? Do I dodge or do I ram? 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 Have you ever wanted to save money buying a cheaper truck only to spend that money at the pump? Do I dodge or do I ram? 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 The only truck brand that is permanently confused because it can't decide to dodge or ram.
All right, we're going to talk about the Hemi Dodge Ram some more. So in talking about this Ram, I feel like we should put it in its context of why you would buy such a ridiculous truck. Well, it's right here. The 5.7 Hemi is why you're going to buy this truck. 13,500 pounds of towing is, in fact, unarguably the best-in-class towing you're going to get. And I've towed with this truck, and the other truck you'll see in our footage as well, the red truck there. Both of them handle really, really well with a trailer behind them. I think because they have such a big fist through the wind, I don't know, air obstruction, that it doesn't even let the air really touch your trailer, which is reflected in the obnoxiously bad miles to the gallon. But that's okay, because if you're buying this to do a job, you still won't get it done, because it's gonna break.
Okay, let's talk about where I actually like something about a Dodge, and that's in here. They've really done a good job. This huge center console that doubles as the middle seat is great for work. In 2003, when the truck was new, you could set a laptop right here and do a lot of your general work right here in your cab. They give you a nice trash hook here. You can hang a trash bag or a grocery bag, as it were, off of this. And when you're done with your one drink of fast food, because you know you're gonna be out all day, you can just throw that away and go get your next one, which I thought was really good foresight. Also, they included just everything in here is so idiot simple. It's like they know that you don't want to have to figure out 800 buttons and a bunch of complicated stuff. So what we have here is the light switch is simple. The blower motor controls, when they work, are simple, but it's got this just big, beefy steering wheel too. It just feels like quality. It's not, but it feels like it. The dash is cracked like every single Dodge out there. The upholstery's coming apart, but that's okay because I actually do enjoy this position in this Dodge. Everything's big, the door handles are huge. It's just it feels rugged and tough, and I can get my work done. And the usability of the fact that I have a crew cab, all four doors instead of the suicide doors on the competition, it's hard to argue with results. And I like the results in here. Now, instead of comparing it to its peers, let's compare trim levels since we have the ability to do it this time.
All right, so getting started here, I have bought a Dodge truck, and we've got Big Al returning from our last Dodge review, and he's bought himself a new Dodge truck to him. So let's get started with what these are. I'll go first. Mine is a 2003 Dodge Ram 1500 with the 5.7 Hemi, 4-speed automatic, and the Dana 60 rear end. Big Al?
Mine is the 02 Dodge 1500. I have the 5.9 360 with a 4-speed and a 392 rear end.
So one of the things we're going to talk about is the comparison between these two. He's got a very base model truck, and I've got the SLT with all the fancy bells and whistles that don't work at all, and some of the differences between them. Let's start with the engine specs. So the 5.7 Hemi here is the better of the two for towing. The max towing on this is 13,500 pounds, which is absolutely ridiculous. But it has a lot of downfalls that come with it. And then your towing specs?
My towing specs are 8,500 pounds, but obviously I won't have as much, but the gas mileage will be increased.
The lack of BS, as it were. Yeah. So in this truck's case, I'm getting city miles to the gallon 7.1, which is atrocious. Every time I fill this thing up, it's like $60, $70. I have to do it quite often. Highway mileage, I'm getting 13.5 miles to the gallon.
In city, I'll get about 13 miles a gallon. When I'm on the highway though, I'll get about 17.
See, that right there to me justifies the difference in just buying the old 5.9. There's no replacement for displacement, but the 5.9 comes with such a cheaper maintenance package. For instance, The Hemi has 16 spark plugs for an 8-cylinder, whereas the old conventional Magnum engine is 8. That right there is quite literally half the maintenance cost. That has a distributor, this has coil packs and crank position sensors that love to go bad on the regular. It's really problematic to try to do tune-ups on these. Not saying it's hard, I'd rather work on this than any Triton Ford piece of shit. So in that regard, I would pick this over it. We're gonna talk about the interiors now. Let's go take a look at some of this B-roll. But on your truck, what do you have for an interior going on?
Well, first off, I have no carpet in there. I have the base model, rolly windows, no electronics.
My favorite.
Of course. And then just normal carpeted seats.
Nothing fancy. Now compare that to mine with very problematic interiors. You can see from this B-roll here, we've got power windows, power locks, tilt wheel, we've got the fancy seats. You know, the SLT could come with leather, but this one does not, thank goodness, because you know it would be obliterated, the old Chrysler leather. It also comes with this nice head unit up top above the rearview mirror that can tell you your current miles to the gallon. It's also a compass, which I thought was pretty cool. I do like the big bench front seat, which we both have. You could actually fit a person in the middle seat and not be too terribly squished together like you would be in the Fords, which have a very small cab. I will complain about the dashes. There's nothing you can do. It's not anyone's fault, but these dashes are designed horribly. Yours is cracked. Yes. Yours is actually obliterated. Yes. Mine is cracked to hell and back, but it's just the dashes, for some reason on Dodge, they cannot get, ever since the 89 that we did the video on, yes. That one didn't have any dash problems. No. And then in 94, when they went with the pig nose, they've just had nothing but dash problems. The dashes are just falling apart. They're atrocious. We'll show you some B-roll of the dashboard now, how bad it is. Let's talk a little bit about tires once we're talking about maintenance, since we just did the interior here. You have 17-inch tires, right?
Yes.
I have the ridiculous 20-inch tires, which are just comically expensive to pay for and replace. If you're going to buy a Ram of this vintage, you really need to know what you need. So if you need to tow something really heavy, you might want to consider a 3/4 ton. I know you're a huge fan of the Cummins diesel for towing. But if you need a 1/2 ton truck and you want the crew cab, I would say that this is a very cheap, affordable option. Keep in mind that word cheap. But 13,500 pounds is hard to argue with that. It really is. Like that's a lot of towing capacity for a 1/2 ton truck, especially for being a full-size truck. It's not ridiculous like a 3/4 ton. It rides pretty smooth. It has pretty good suspension. I'm not feel like I'm getting punched in the anus every time I hit a speed bump. And that's a really good towing capacity. But if you're only pulling a small camper or a boat, I think I actually prefer this truck. It's just less maintenance. Cheaper tires, cheaper spark plug tune-up, cheaper oil change. 7.5 quarts of oil in the Hemi, 5 quarts in the 5.9. So it's just so much cheaper to maintain the 5.9. Now, what problems have you had? Now, you've owned this truck a while, right?
Well, a little over a year now.
A little over a year. What have you had to do?
I've had the rear end lock up on me, had to completely replace the rear end. Obviously, that 392 is not something to get. I would not recommend on that one.
I would definitely shy away from the 392 rear end as well. I definitely agree with that.
I did lose a tire, the wheel bearing snapped in half.
It's happened to a lot of Dodge trucks, even the new ones. Even if you bought a brand new Dodge Ram off the lot, we have some commercial clients who have them. The wheel does the delete package quite often, and it's just these crappy wheel bearing designs. So you're not going to get away from that wheel bearing problem buying the Hemi or buying the 5.9 or the SLT or the base. That wheel bearing problem is a problem across the board. You are going to have that wheel bearing problem. So make sure you listen for that howling kind of airplane droning noise. Once you get it, you need to replace it. Otherwise, you're going to have the wheel delete, and that's not fun or cheap. So wheel bearings and rear end. What else have we had to go? I think I remember us putting a radiator in this thing.
I did have to do radiator, I had to do water pump, thermostat, but that's just going to be a normal tune-up. Eventually, those are all going to go out.
They are, that's valid.
I had to do oil pan gasket. I will say that it's a pain to do an oil pan gasket on this.
I would say yes. I actually think this one is worse because the 5.9, you have space to reach the bolts. On this one, because it's such a tall engine, you can't even reach the midsection bolts. So even though yours is a nightmare, I don't even think I'd attempt this one. I think if I have a customer with a leaking oil pan, I'd just tell them to drive it until it blows up. Keep oiling it. Just don't think I would do it. So oil pan, radiator, water pump, thermostat, rear end.
Yes. And then I have one last one. It's a small electrical issue with wiper switch most likely.
An electrical issue on a Chrysler. Alert immediate.
You start the truck and the windshield wipers will go off, but it'll stop and it'll go back to normal afterwards.
So it's fine.
It's fine.
It's fine. It's good. You don't need to worry about that. It's good. I also share the electrical gremlins, so you're not going to get away from those either. On my truck here, I don't have the wiper blade problem yet, but I do have where the fans work when they want to. It's not the blower motor. We've replaced the blower motor. We've gotten that good and working, but the switch, or I've actually heard the ignition switch, is wired in through the circuit. So the ignition switch actually tells the rest of the TIPA module, hey, everything's on, you can turn on. And sometimes the switch position or the contacts wear out, and it will shut off random things, like sometimes the radio won't work, sometimes the blower won't work, and that's very annoying. I found that on some of the forums. And that's something else with these trucks. There's really good forums to follow with these. You can find a lot of information about the Ram, but you are going to be fixing a lot of stuff. So if this is something you're looking at buying, make sure you're ready. You're going to have to fix a lot of things yourself, and they're not too terribly. I would say on a scale of 1 to 10, these are probably like a 3 to work on, like as far as actual difficulty. Like the oil pan job is a pain in the ass, but like regular maintenance, a starter, you know, even that rear end really wasn't that horrible. I would say this is a very DIY friendly vehicle. If you're going to do it yourself, maybe buy a third vehicle, this is good.
Most definitely. I mean, you may be working on it a lot, but it's a very easy thing to work on.
Now, talking about reliability overall of these trucks, I'm very disappointed. I am not a Mopar fan, as you've seen in our other videos. I definitely like to crap on them all the time. I will warn you about the 4.7 again. Do not buy one of these trucks. Both of these moving forward into the 2000s, you can get a 4.7, and even you, Big Al Mopar King, has got to acknowledge the 4.7 is a giant pile of
That is something you definitely want to avoid.
The 4.7 is horrible. It's a piece of crap engine. You want to get this one or that one. These are the two engines you really want to get, and they serve their relative purposes. This is a good full-size truck for light towing. This is a full-size truck for heavy towing. If you're going to get a Hemi and you don't have a trailer and you're not going to pull anything, you are wasting your money. You are not going to get any kind of benefit out of this truck if it's not pulling stuff for you to make you money. This thing drinks way too much fuel. If you're getting it to pull stuff on the weekends, get the 5.9. It's so much cheaper, which is strange because everyone bought these. You can find Hemi Dodge Rams all day long, Craigslist, Facebook Marketplace, for sale. You can't find them. I think it's because people just don't get rid of them. I think people just keeping their 5.9s.
Oh, 100%, because I have my 5.9 in the 89, and I still have that, and it will still be with me forever.
I just think people are holding on to the 5.9s a lot longer. Now, with these, in comparison to their counterparts, I think the only truck they beat out is the Titan. I do. I think even my F-150 has been more reliable for me. My Silverado has been more reliable than them both combined. So if you're looking for a full-size truck in the hierarchy of trucks, see our top 5 full-size truck video. But this truck, if you're looking at it, or if you were gifted it hand-me-down style, if Peepaw had it, whatever, if you're looking at getting a Ram, these are the differences between the two and what I would buy and not buy. So that's all we have time for today on Grumpy Monkey Garage. Just wanted to give you a little review on the Dodge Ram pickups of this is the 3rd gen, correct? The 2nd gen was the pig nose. So this is the 3rd gen Dodge Ram pickups. So we hope you enjoyed this review, and we'll see you next time on Grumpy Monkey Garage.